Koya, thanks for getting everybody together. And Terry, we're going to talk about housing authority stuff too, and so we appreciate it. And Katie Jo, thanks for being here, and of course, Koya, to you and your whole crew as well. We really appreciate you guys and the important work that the CVIC does. And you'd gotten a hold of us, trying to remember when, but obviously got a hold of us concerned about the your contracts for the CVIC, totaling 1.8 million plus, which obviously is vital to keep this great organization going. And our team's been working on it. And the good news is that we've got commitments to get that funded. And so that's incredibly important. That's 1.8 million over the 3 years. So that's vital. And I know you raise other money. I know the community steps up, supports you very well. But obviously the 1.8 million is vital to keep doing all that you do on behalf of victims of violence of all kinds, whether it's domestic violence or other kind of violence that occurs in the community. And this program is so vital to the greater Grand Forks area. And you guys do such a great job. Of course, I know your family going back to Minot days, and I love your family. They're such great people. But, you know, your leadership and your team to do all the things you do, it's just unbelievable. And the importance of the CVIC to the community, it just can't be overstated. And we understand. We really do. And so we're glad. We actually worked with Associate Attorney General Stanley Woodward. I want to give a huge thank you to Attorney General Woodward. Without Stanley Woodward, it wouldn't have happened. Okay, I mean, we explained the programs to him. They were not going to happen, frankly, until we got him involved. And he's like the third person in charge from the top there in the U.S. Attorney General's office. And so, but he personally got involved with us, and, you know, not just on the phone, but we met with him and worked on it. And because of his involvement, that's why we've gotten these commitments. And so when people come across like that, you want to recognize them and thank him. So again, Associate Attorney General Stanley Woodward, he really is the guy that got this done for us. And I want to make sure people know that. There is one smaller contract. I think it's 19 million. Totals about 41 or 2 over the 3 years. We don't have a commitment on that. But we have commitments on the others. Two are full commitments. The other is a conditional commitment, but we should have the final commitment on that within the next week or so, according to Attorney General Woodward. And funding should be this month. So hopefully that, from a cash flow standpoint, is going to work for you. But that's kind of the latest that we have. And again, appreciate all you're doing, and want to make sure that we understand, where you are and how things are going, and if there is something else that we need to be working on that we're working on. Okay, let me stop there. Jessica, what else do you or Tom? Was there anything else? Thomas? Okay. And Tom and John Simmermeyer on our crew, who's our legal counsel, been champs on this too, along with Jessica. So we appreciate that. But I mean, it really to get Associate Attorney General Woodward at that high level to step in and work with us directly, that's why we're able to.
It was funny because I wonder if Sim wants to change his cell phone number, because he's been texting me every other day, just checking to see if the budget's been released. And I think it was a Thursday about 4:00. He said, has the budget been released yet? And I said, no, I'm getting nervous. Interesting enough, because it crossed about 8:00, about 4 hours later. So I know whatever conversations you and your team are having are working, and we truly cannot thank you enough. So if it's okay, we'd just like to give you a little bit of this is going to be a Reader's Digest condensed version. We typically take an hour and a half to give people an overview of the Safer Tomorrow's Roadmap. So this is just a little bit about us. So I don't want to leave anybody out. So in your packet center are a number of partners. So the Safer Tomorrow's Roadmap is really a long-range plan to end violence in 2 generations. And it simply does not happen without many of the people in this room and the partnerships. It runs the gamut from, it's kind of funny, the cops sat on one side of the room and the attorneys are over here. We've got healthcare mixed in. We've got education in the room. But we truly do not do this work in a vacuum. We have 80 paid staff, about 3,500 private donors that raise over $1 million. Our goal every year is 1.4 million. Tracy's going to cover the financials with you, but that's a number that's almost doubled in the past 8 years. Was about 763,000 when we started the roadmap in 2018. We also have 90 plus volunteers and over 30 partners. The one thing we like to emphasize on this slide, because there's a lot going on here, but in the top area with the orange here in the picture is our candid seal of transparency. We are platinum rated. And so for us in nonprofits, this is kind of our Bible. It's how we judge our efficiency, our transparency, our financial excellence. So this is to be platinum rated. There's only 1% of us in that database that are at that. So we were bronze when we first started the Save for Tomorrow's roadmap. So that's something we're really proud of. And as of Monday, we are doing international. Well, we've been doing international presentations as well. But one of the things we wanted to do with the Save for Tomorrow's roadmap is we really believe it can scale beyond Grand Forks County. And as of Monday, we got word that Therese and Laura are going to be presenting in Norway in November. So, so we're actually going across the ocean now. So pretty excited about that. So the reality is of the Save for Tomorrow's roadmap, there's still quite a bit of work to do. So these are some new statistics. It's actually 1 in 3 women and 1 in 6 men that will experience domestic violence or sexual assault in their lifetime. So that's 18,000 of us here in Grand Forks County. North Dakota wide, it's over 200,000. So it's a pretty staggering number. The Save for Tomorrow's roadmap was built on the longest childhood trauma study done by Kaiser Permanente. And we know that if children have 4 or more adverse childhood experiences, so those could be things like experiencing trauma in the home, witnessing it, perhaps a parent going to prison. We know that if kiddos have 4 or more of those ACEs or adverse childhood experiences, that they're likely to develop all of these ancillary things that come with violence. So the couple data points that are very humbling that we often share is that kiddos with 4 or more ACEs are 7 times more likely to develop alcoholism and 12 times more likely to attempt suicide. So we know that if we can get to these kiddos early, that we really do have a shot at ending violence. Here locally, it's pretty humbling. There's more than 6,000 local children exposed to violence and more than 1,900 with severe ACEs. So it's a very humbling number. The good news is we're making some progress. So our holistic approach really covers the gamut. So it's everything from safety and emergency services to healing and transition services to prevention and education. So everything in the yellow here is that crisis services. So last year we served almost 4,000 victims in crisis. That's 500 more survivors than the prior year. We provided over 4,300 nights of shelter. 101 adults received over 1,200 individual therapy sessions. We have 7 therapists on staff. 73 youth received almost 900 individual therapy sessions. And then on the prevention side, we educated over 17,000 youth and adults last year. We don't have time to go through all the slides, but I did include for you, senators, some of the data points around the 8-year outcomes since we launched the Save for Tomorrow's roadmap. I will tell you, when we set about to do the roadmap, we significantly underestimated how much work was ahead of us. For example, we served over 28,000, almost 29,000 nights of shelter. So in the past 8 years. So the need is still significant. The good news is that we're making progress. We wanted to give you a snapshot of some of the effort that you have been doing, you and your team have been doing, is making a marked difference. In fact, some of these programs are what the grants are funding, and Tracy is going to actually cover that in a little bit more detail here in a second. But TACO is actually one of our top requested programs by both kiddos and educators. What we're really proud of is this was created and authored and produced by our team. And if Nadia was here, she would have a taco banana clip and taco earrings, and the kids love it. It's only a couple years old, but as you can see, one of the things we try to do that's really important to us is not only measuring the amount of people we're reaching, but what is the behavior changing and measuring outcomes. So we've gone from reaching almost 500 kiddos to almost 800. And then as you can see, when we look at the outcomes, a marked difference in behavior change year over year. And that's for our littles. So those are K through 3. And then if we go to grades 4 and 5, we have Friendships at Work, another good example. So 2018, when we launched the roadmap, 424 reach, now over 700. And then I love the questions we ask kids. I kind of think I could have avoided a couple of marriages if I would have had these questions a couple of years ago. But we ask students, percentage of students that felt confident they could help a friend feel heard. So 74% to 90%. And then percentage of students who felt they can tell a friend that they were angry in a respectful way, 70% to 90%. So marked difference in a very short time. And then for kids grades 6 through 12, this is another, as you can see, this is a study we do every 2 years. So we had some work to do in 2020, but when we asked students who had reported experienced dating violence, we went from 40% in 2022 to 13 in 2024. So we're hoping we can keep that up moving forward. And now Tracy's going to cover a little bit about some of the efforts that have transpired before you got involved, as well as what we're hopes going to continue now that you are involved.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator, for being here today and for your time and for your staff's time and leadership and commitment to the people of North Dakota. For the first time since 2018, our organization is facing significant financial challenges. And while saying that openly is not easy, for us, transparency has always been central into how we operate and how we lead and plan for the future. We believe honesty, especially in difficult times, is essential to maintaining trust and accountability. Over many years, our board and leadership have been thoughtful and intentional in moments like this. We built up an operating reserve because we knew challenges would come, and we wanted to ensure that we would not be caught unprepared. Since 2021, CVIC, together with our county partners, who we have a few of them here today, we have our state's attorney, Haley Wamstead, and Sheriff Schneider, and dedicated legislative champions such as Representative Sanford, Representative O'Brien, Murphy, and Representative Ista, along with our local city law enforcement. We've all led statewide efforts to increase funding for domestic violence and sexual assault services and strengthen protections for victims. Just to kind of give you an idea on this, this red area here depicts our state funding. Back in 2022, that state funding was less than $250,000. And today it's, almost $1.4 million or 19% of our budget. So those efforts have been successful. In addition, we've also worked with support from the Dakota Foundation, and we developed and implemented and carefully considered a business plan in 2025 to start billing insurance for our therapy services when it's safe for the client to do so. And then we pay for their copays and deductibles with grant funds and client assistance funds, so that services for victims still remain free. And more recently, we launched the Meet the Moment, a private capital campaign designed to help close the ongoing funding gaps. And we're now in the early stages of developing a business plan for some of that that Koya shared with you, that prevention education work. We believe it will work in other communities just like that. I think that's page 6, let's see. Page 18 are some of our efforts to diversify our funding and not rely solely on the federal government. But even with this careful planning, we began the year with a board-approved budget and a $500,000 funding gap, driven largely by the expected sunset of a private grant. We had 2 years' notice of that change, and we acted early by engaging a funding strategist in Washington, D.C. But what we didn't fully anticipate was the broader funding environment those private funders were going to face. Across the country, private funders are overwhelmed by demand, much of it driven by significant federal funding cuts and delayed award announcements. Those delays, particularly in late 2025, compressed timelines and placed additional strain on already limited philanthropic resources. And this is where your leadership has truly made a difference. We are so grateful. And because you listened and because of your genuine care and concern, our outlook today is far brighter. Through the tireless efforts of you and your staff, we not only received answers, we received awards. Carrie, I don't know if she's here. Yeah, she took a call from one of our grant managers, and she said, "Your senator's calling," and he's very persistent. Yes, and it wasn't long after that not only for us but for other grantees across the entire country, services are moving again. So we're very thankful for that. We are deeply grateful for your support in securing federal funding, and we received the Consolidated Youth Program and the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Program funding. These awards allow us to advance our Safer Tomorrows roadmap. There's some greater information here. These awards allow us to advance our Safer Tomorrows roadmap in more meaningful ways that'll enable us to provide safety, healing, and prevention education services for youth, not only in Grand Forks, but our surrounding rural communities, places like Larimore, Gilby, Northwood, we're traveling out to all those communities to serve them as well.
That's where Roostagard lived.
Oh, yes, there we go.
They were like,
Yeah.
first on the list.
First on the list.
Why is Gilby always first?
They are important, and they need our services more now than ever. So some of the things that these two grants are supporting are really youth focused. So we're very excited about that. It's supporting young people in their moments of crisis. It's reaching those most at risk of involvement in violence. It's offering accountability-based intervention groups for young people, expanding access to trauma-informed therapy to youth and their caregivers, as well as delivering prevention education and school-based supports in Grand Forks, the city proper, as well as the county. Senator Hoeven, again, we're very grateful. Your advocacy and partnership directly translate into safer tomorrows for us, for our children, for our families, and for communities. We look forward to continuing the work together and furthering conversations with you and your staff about the 2 awards that we still have out there pending. And we just, again, thank you for your leadership and collaboration.
Right. Well, thanks for that great summary. And there's a number of things that just jump out.
Ask away if you have any questions.
One is the area you serve, I think, and that's way back on the first page, but Grand Forks County, Nelson County, Polk County, Trail County, Walsh County, and Rural Advocacy, Nelson, Grand Forks. So the regional reach, I think, I'm not sure everybody understands. I didn't fully understand, but that is very consequential. The other thing I thought was really impactful. I mean, there's so much. Mostly, of course, most of all, your work is so impactful, and you're caring. But this is a case that our guys will be able to continue to press. When you look at this wheel, so the federal money, all in say 2.5 range, 2.5 million. But your budget's 7.2. You're leveraging all these other sources. So for every one of these entities, it's federal government, state government, whoever it is, the impact is so much bigger because you leverage the money the way you do.
Amen.
And then you serve this big area.
Yes.
And with what's going on in our society today, I mean, the work you do is more important than ever. I mean, whether it's the internet, whether it's just all the pressures that we face, whether it's in the home, whether it's at school, wherever it is, where do folks go? What I hear from teachers more than anything else when I say, hey, how's it going, as far as teaching in the class and all that kind of stuff, they don't say, well, it's the curriculum or the resources as far as what they teach. They said it's the behavioral issues that we have to deal with. We need help with those. We need more resource officers. We need more ways to handle the behavioral problems so we can teach all of the students. And so this is a critical area that is so important and leverages so many other things that we want for the good of our society, for the good of our communities. And these other rural communities, they can't do it. They're not going to be able to do this. They've got to have somebody like you, or they're just not going to have that service.
We just had a meeting with Northern Plains Rail Services, and one of the attendees lives in Gilby, and she was saying their school is begging for a school counselor. They can't get one out in their community, and it's just really tragic for their community that they don't have that resource.
That's what we always call them the school counselors, that kind of thing, but it's really, now they call them resource officers, and our law enforcement guys know too, because they just have to cover a gamut of issues, and without that help, the teachers can't teach. So it's really important.
And Senator, I know we probably want to transition here shortly to Grand Forks Housing Authority, but I just wanted to.
Yeah, Terry's getting a link.
I just wanted to say one thing too, that you really are truly impacting real lives. So in what we affectionately call the wheel here, there's a young family here. This is Kyle and his wife Mariah, and their daughter Gwendolyn. This is a walking, talking example of the Safer Tomorrows roadmap, not only living, breathing, but working. And this gentleman is here today. So if you want to give us a wave. But not only is he making it his business to change the trajectory of violence, he's helped us through our survivor advisory panel, so he informs our work. We'd like to hire him in development.
I'm going to ask, we've got to have him say a few words just to tell us a little bit about his experience.
I told them you wouldn't have to speak.
Oh, only if you want. I mean, if you don't want, you don't have to. But I'd love to hear just some of your thoughts if you want.
Are we on? Oh, there we go. Perfect. So I mean, how, couple minutes, brief. All right. So I mean, I've been with CVIC since I was 16. I'm 33 now. I went through a lot with my dad, just being an alcoholic, domestic violence, just experienced it, hiding behind couches, things like that. Not having money where I had to pay my mom's bills at some points. CVIC was there for me to kind of like have free services and be able to reach me and improve me. I had no self-esteem before this. And over one summer, I had all of the self-esteem again. Just a big improvement on life. And I didn't want to, not to be depressing, but I didn't want to be here. And they changed my mindset. And I'm actually sitting by my therapist right here, which is really cool. Yeah, she's very nice. Full circle, this is, she watched my wife when she was a kid. So full circle. But CVIC has given me the opportunity to keep changing and improve my life and show my daughter what the next cycle is of healthy relationships and things like that. I was in a I could have been a fourth generation alcoholic and domestic violence person, but they've done nothing but improve my life and change my mindset. And I appreciate you being here today, and I'm glad I was invited. I feel like all this work here is needed because there's a lot of people out there like me that don't have the money and resources to be able to do this stuff, and have people like that donate, and it just means a lot to them. Just that little bit, and one therapy session can change everything. So thank you for everything. Thank you.
Well, it's good you're here today. Your testimony is powerful and important. I think it is important that you say a few words, and because I think people then realize, hey, maybe I can get that help and do what he did. So that's pretty awesome. Do anything before you want to turn to Terry? Anything else you want to? I'd hate to be Terry because I'd hate to follow. I mean, CVIC and the story you just told is pretty amazing. So if I were Terry, I'd be thinking, gee whiz, that's a hard handoff. I know he's up to it. Terry, in your case, we actually passed legislation. So Stanley Woodward helped us out with CVIC, but in your case, we actually just finally passed a bill to get it done. Because this has been going on for a while. And essentially what the legislation says is, I've got it here. We just included language in the transportation housing funding bill. And it basically directs that the Secretary of HUD, and we did have Rodney Turner out here not too long. Good guy. He played professional football for like 10 years, right? Remember? Guy's in shape. I know you looked at him and you looked at me, and it was kind of... No, you kind of shook your head when you looked at me. And said, but no, good guy, really good guy. And he was impressed with what y'all are doing out here. But we still had to pass legislation to get it fixed. But basically what it says is it directs the Secretary of HUD, Housing and Urban Development, to either forgive or restructure indebtedness. And I won't read all four provisions, but essentially for under various circumstances to either forgive or restructure the debt. And you qualify. We made sure that the conditions we put in there, you qualify. So the key is we're not done yet, but we've put in law that they have to work with us to fix it. And the key is now connecting with you, the loan officer or program officer at HUD that you all work with, and we want to have probably have you come down and actually meet with them and our guys, and just hammer this thing out so you can get the funding to make the improvements to LaGrave Place.
Because this is federal legislation, headquarters is handling the work. Headquarters is handling it, and that's why we are kind of not being kept up to date on what they're doing. But I'm sure they're moving forward with it because it is an important bill, and they have to address every item of the bill, right? So
Yeah.
they'll get it done. Just a quick background for everyone. We had a flex sub loan, and it actually matured. It came due. And the way around that is you get a deferral for it. And we submitted an application to HUD for a deferral, and that's what got lost, right? For years, it got lost. It was all submitted. I received word from HUD that they had it and it's sent to headquarters to work on, and then it just never was addressed again. So finally, I asked HUD, what can we do? And HUD said, well, you're going to have to change the law. So unknowing, that's what we do. We change the law. Katie Jo is going to go through a few slides. But Senator, I want to thank you again for always coming through for affordable housing in North Dakota. I think I'm going to say it was eight years ago within the month that you were at a hearing with the then Secretary Carson. And on public record, you asked him to help Grand Forks, North Dakota for us. And you got an action response from him, and he helped us out, and we got through, and we started the LaGrave on First project as a result of that. So thank you for that. And I thank you for this, because, once again, you came through for affordable housing in North Dakota. Okay, so here's my pitch. Next, we thank you for what you just did. What you could do, Senator, is increase the small state allocation for low-income housing tax credits. Double it. Today, we can only do about 120 units of affordable housing using the low-income housing tax credit program in the state per year. The state needs anywhere from 6,000 to 9,000 housing units. 4 years ago, it was 6,000, and I think recently I saw the number approaching 9,000 of affordable housing units for extremely low-income households. So that's very important, and I think that's something that would help the state and all the small states a lot to increase that amount.
We also work a lot with Beyond Shelter. So same thing. We not only need to increase it, but then get more of these creative partners like Beyond Shelter and the others, just like this wheel that you guys have done such an incredible job with. There's just such a need out there. And same thing for building affordable housing, whether it's multifamily or single family. And this is a national issue and a national challenge right now. So it needs to be a priority, not just for us, but really nationwide. And hopefully that means that we can get some action on it.
I'll let Katie go.
All right. So yes, echoing appreciation for you being here. And while as a member of the Senate THUD subcommittee for appropriations, we know that a lot of your work and input impacts all of our day-to-day work. But specifically, we're going to talk about the two different things that you've really helped us with recently. So with the Housing Authority, we've been around since 1967, and we have a history of increasing the units of affordable housing that we have, as well as expanding services in our community, only in support from our partners and when there is community need. Today, we support more than 2,000 households with housing. And in addition to that, the majority of our work and our innovation is done with Grand Forks Homes. So Grand Forks Homes is a separate 501c3 nonprofit. They have their own board of directors, and I'll acknowledge we have the chair for both the Housing Authority and Grand Forks Homes boards here. We have Joni Kilber for Grand Forks Homes and Joan Johnson with the Housing Authority. And Grand Forks Homes is like our best friend partner. We have been able to develop a ton of projects over the years, expand services, and meet community needs in partnership with them. And included would be some of the COC grants that we'll talk about later. So the main reason we're here is LaGrave Place. And so as you've talked about, this is something that we have an outstanding flexible subsidy loan. It was actually originally built in 1976, and Grand Forks Homes is the owner. It is a unique property in the fact that it's 5 12-plexes and then 6 townhomes. And LaGrave Place is extra unique in the fact that we have the first neighborhood network center in HUD Region 8. And that was started in 1995, another a testament to our partnership and our innovation. And that is what we call LaGrave Learning Center. So LaGrave Learning Center also, through our partnership with UND, offers an after-school program. And that is not restricted just to our tenants. That's also open to community members as well. In addition, we do have an on-site resident service coordinator that's funded through the operations of LaGrave Place. And our service coordinators are readily available for our tenants. They're the link to connecting our tenants with community resources, arranging for events on site, things like food baskets, things of that nature. The Flex Sub loan originated in 1995 when we had a complete renovation of all 66 units. It was, a gut of the kitchen, cabinets, bathrooms, the whole kit and caboodle. And the flexible subsidy loan made it possible. So you fast forward to now, and as Terry was sharing earlier, HUD told us, the only way to move forward with getting this loan forgiven is you need an act of Congress. And he said, challenge accepted. And so, yes, incredibly grateful for your work and support, as well as John Zimmermeyer. Yes. Without you guys, we would have never had Section 239 of the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2026. It would have never happened. And so, it took a little while to get there. But yes, we're waiting for HUD to move forward with that. But this is a new process for HUD as well. So we understand that things take time and there's learning curves for all of us. But what this means for us is that LaGrave Place, over the last almost 50 years of its existence, has housed approximately 1,000 families in those 66 units. So by doing this, by creating the ability for us to have this loan forgiven, provides access for families to continue to be housed. It allows us to have the ability to access funding and make improvements. It continues the support for the resident service coordinator, as well as the LaGrave Learning Center. And in an environment where housing is desperately needed in our community, it preserves affordable housing. In addition to all of your work and support, also included in the Consolidated Appropriations Act was language regarding the fiscal year 25 Continuum of Care funds. So back in 2024, you supported the inclusion of 2-year grant cycles for those. We experienced a bit of a hiccup with how those were being renewed. And again, your support in including language in the Consolidated Appropriations Act ensures that our grants have the ability to be renewed. Those support 5 staff members that are working with more than 100 people in our community on any given year. And often we talk about how the answer to homelessness is housing plus support services. And this allows us to continue that work in supporting people, including youth and young adults under the age of 25, in obtaining and maintaining their housing. Without those support services, it's not necessarily a safety net so much as a support system in knowing that they can achieve their dreams and we're there to help them get there. So with that, thank you.
It doesn't work without the continuum of care piece, and there's different types. In some cases, it's abused women and children. In other cases, it's homelessness, it could be veterans, whoever, but without those additional services, it doesn't work. So that's a huge part of it. I'm glad you brought that up. Thanks, Katie Jo. Katie Jo's been down to see me more than once. She is a pro. I mean, she comes in, she does it right. It's always about, she doesn't come in and criticize, she always comes in and says, how can we solve a problem? So you guys are blessed to have really somebody great advocate and a great person working for you. And as you can tell, she cares, which is
I'm a crier.
it's really cool. I love it to see how much she cares, how much you care. All of you. I mean, you wouldn't be here today if you didn't. And we appreciate the incredible work you all do. But boy, you just don't have a good community without these programs. You know what I mean? And every one of you is an interlocking piece of the puzzle. Thanks for pulling this together. What a great group you got.
Thank you.
You got the all-stars.